Okay. Yay! Welcome to the Well Dressed Breast Brand TV show. Oh my word, if you only knew the technology issues today, but that is okay. We are unstoppable and unshakable today. Please welcome in my guest today, Angel Aviles, the beautiful and talented author, speaker, influencer. Welcome to the Well Dressed Brand TV show. Thank you so much for saying yes and being here with all of us today. I am so excited to dive into this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to finally be live. It feels good.
Oh my goodness, we were trying. So I stumbled upon a video of yours a few months back on LinkedIn, and I was like, who is this breathtaking, exceptional woman? I need her in my life. The Well Dressed Brand tribe needs her in their lives because here at the Well Dressed Brand TV show. And in order to be a part of the Well Dressed Brand tribe, we believe in personal branding from the inside out. And so, if you are not dealing with your hurt and your trauma and on your healing journey, those types of things will come out when you're working on your 9 to 5 job, right? If you're running your business, all of those kind of things, because as we move through life, all of us are kind of looking out of our trauma glasses or drinking out of like a trauma cup, and that is not the way that you want to move through life. You don't want to be yelling at people, and you don't want to be let's like dealing with all of these things. So to the best of your ability, you want to show up, 100% your true whole self. I do believe that we're in a time of wholeness. And so I thought that your transformational message, it's something that can help us get on the right track to wholeness. And I believe in living well and dressing well. And I just really feel strongly that you are the epitome of a well dressed brand because you've done the work. So thank you again for saying yes today. And much has happened in the 3 decades since you've brought the role of Sad Girl, the film, to Mi Vida Loca to life. Can you start to tell us a little bit about the film and then walk us through your background a little bit?
Absolutely. So we're gonna go back, way back to
Yes.
to the '90s when that film came out. Oh well, yeah, when it came out, when we shot it. So Mi Vida Loca, for those of you who don't know, is a classic. It's a cult classic in the Latinx, the Latino, the Latina community. And this was a film that was female directed. It was based on female characters, and it was based on sort of an definitely underrepresented and despised, ostracized,
Wow.
condemned um, subsect subsector of that community. And so being able to be a part of that project was phenomenal. Prior to 1992, when I came out to Los Angeles to film that role, I was born and raised in New York City. I am Puerto Rican, and so Puerto Rican and Venezuelan. And so it was a really incredible bridge, a really incredible chance for me to explore and find the truth of those characters, even though I didn't have that experience. To find the truth. That's what an actor does. You're looking
Yeah.
to find the truth in the character so that you can play it with truth. Ultimately, we did the movie. It was embraced by the community. People to this day still watch it. I have experienced all kinds of I've had all kinds of amazing experiences as a result of being in that film. What happened after my career in film? I worked as an actor during the '90s. I was blessed to be one of very few Latinas in Hollywood to make a living as an actress. I feel extremely blessed to have done that. But somewhere in there, I wanted to have a family. I wanted to normalize my life. I wanted to feel like there was some sort of stability. I went back to school. I got a job in marketing, and I started to pursue a career in corporate America. And I was married, and I had children, and I built this incredible life, a very beautiful looking life. And somewhere around 2008, after a series of things that had occurred, I was on vacation with my family and I had my first panic attack.
Wow.
That first panic attack led to a series of debilitating panic attacks that ultimately led to me having episodes of days in my closet crying,
Oh, wow.
episodes of agoraphobia, of claustrophobia, of just misery, fear, and depression ultimately.
Wow.
Yes. So after that, that was my apple talking to me. Um, after having that experience and realizing that I have these three kids that I I really want to live for,
Yeah.
but not knowing, like, I didn't have suicidal ideation, so I want to be clear about that. But I also didn't have a desire to truly live,
Mm.
and
What?
I didn't want to live my life like that. And so there began the transformation and the awakening process in my life. I started to hunt for my healing. I mean, like life depended,
Mm. I love that.
which it did, right?
Yeah.
When you're in that darkness, you realize that so many other things fade in the background. So many other things become secondary to your mental, your physical, your spiritual health.
Yeah.
And you go after it. And then you realize that there's been this extraordinary wreckage. It feels like
Yes.
a burning,
Mm-hmm.
destruction. And you're left to look at what pieces have remained, what you want to keep, what you can move on to. You're
Yes.
left with a grieving process, and you're left with a choice of how you want to move forward.
Yeah.
Ultimately, my coaching practice emerged from that. My with my coaching practice emerged extremely organically. I didn't go out there and say, "Oh, hey, I want to be a coach." I was writing a blog, and people were asking me questions, asking me if they could pay me to have time with me.
Yeah.
That's literally how it was.
I love that. And I love that what we talk about on the show a lot is that it's not always just the thing that you go through, but it's what's underneath the thing. Because what grows from that, and like all the things that you talked about, it was what you did in that time. And I love the phrase that you were just hunting for your wholeness, and hunting for your healing rather, because I think that even through, as we were all coming out of lockdown, that was how so many people were spending their time, you know and that was the one of the things that came out of it that was, I think, positive. I think we've normalized therapy. We've normalized, like, hey, setting boundaries and saying that these things are not okay, and leaning into, like, hey, that's not the life that I want to live. What do you what do you think was the one thing that allowed you to kind of start to embrace that discomfort?
You know,
Maybe it wasn't
I
one.
wish I could, right. I wish I could say it was one thing, that I could pinpoint one thing. But what I realized is that the most important thing for me was to be present. And so that one thing could be anything, as
Hmm.
long as I'm here, connecting to what I'm feeling, and if I whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
And sitting with the fact that sometimes you're not going to like the way you feel. Sometimes you're not going to like the conversations you had. You're not going to like the way you handle certain situations.
Yeah.
Are you going to still choose you? Are you going to still choose what it really means to have the kind of love, the self-love? Like, these are the moments of self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care can look like getting a massage. It can look like doing your nails. It can look like really having a spa day. It can also look like growing and understanding what it means to be graceful to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that that's one of the things that is very difficult is, at least for me, like I know that I don't always show myself grace. I'm very hard on myself. And rightly so. We have a very similar background. As I was listening to your book, I was like, "Oh, wow." Like it's crazy. But I was thinking about even when I was writing the questions to ask you today, I was asking some of those things for myself, of myself too, because I was like, huh, what, like, how did you get here, right? Like, and how did I get here through all of the pain, all of the trauma, through the molestations, through, these really exceptional mothers, through, that maybe the world didn't understand. That was not my story. That's your story. But there was just so many like little difficult but beautiful nuggets that transpired. And so as you look at these pivotal moments in your life, what do you feel are, like, if you had to take there's been so many, but like if you had to say, here are the three pivotal moments that really started to help me to shift and change and kind of thrust you into a life where you create I want to use your words, where you create a habit of happiness. Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. So again, three pivotal moments is is a really difficult thing to focus on and to
Yeah.
center on. But I can say that the moments of determining that um, I wasn't going to let go, I wasn't going to give up on myself. I wasn't going to live in the way that I had felt that I was living. This required me to reevaluate everything. So,
Yeah.
reevaluate the spirituality that I had built my life on.
Yes.
So, reevaluate belief systems, reevaluate
Yes.
relationships,
Yes.
reevaluate every single thing. And I talk about this in my book where I had to reevaluate, like, even if I liked the smell that I had been living with for the last decade,
Mm.
right? All of the compromises, right? You have a business that's based on branding. I was living in a life that was a brand based on compromise.
That's good.
And so I had to decide, like, well, who am I? What am I?
Yes.
What is what I want to be? Because I think that we get a lot of training in that. We get a lot of
Mhm.
training in in visualization, which is super uber important. And I don't want to discount that because
Yeah.
visualization is life altering. But beginning is this assessment of the all of the categories in your life.
Yes.
There's so much. There's your physical being, your financial being, your mental
Mhm.
health,
Yeah.
your all of the areas of health in your life, all of your relationships, your relationship with literally everything in your life. You have to
Mhm.
assess that and decide, like, oh, I'm a zero in this. I'm a total
Yes.
I this is total shit in my life.
Yeah.
Or and you conversely have to acknowledge that I'm a 5 in this and I've never given myself credit.
Mhm.
Pivotal in my life has been to be true,
Mm.
to look at my life and give myself permission to want what I want,
Yes.
to like what I like,
Yes.
and not feel like I have to apologize or shamelessly live in that.
I love that. Yeah, because you have to create the life that you want. And I'm working on my second book right now. One of the things that I've been so obsessed with over the last 2 years is exactly really what you just said. And I love it because there comes a time, like as you were saying, that you have to reevaluate those things and then give yourself permission to reimagine your life. But then just start really mapping out this is the life that I want to create for myself. Here's what that looks like. Here's the relationships that I want to have. Here's the career that I want to have. This is what my business looks like when it's, when it's thriving. Here's who I am when I'm show up and I'm thriving. And so that was one of the many things that really drew me to you and your message and just the way that you go about it. I love the way that your mind works because, to your point, I think that we live in this world where there's so many buzzwords, and I think that's so important for me to say that as someone who is in the personal branding space, right? Everyone's out here flying in their live your truth flag and be authentic, but no one really wants to dig deeper like you just did and say, hey, take a true measure of your life. What score do you give yourself? Hey, show yourself some grace. That vision board is cute, but it may not be the thing that's really going to, it's a tool, but it's not going to be the thing that really transforms your life. So I hope that you guys are getting that. And if you are at a point in your life where you might have to evaluate, you might have to reimagine, you might have to take look at the score that you've been keeping with yourself over the last couple of years and set, and decide where you're not going to compromise. I love that. I love that. Um, you talked about on one of your TikTok videos about making the small changes. And so, as you're really evaluating all of these sections of your life, coincidentally, it's a lot of the same things that we talk about when you're considering creating your personal brand, right? I talk about your image, your mission, your vision, your values, your core values, who you really are, and what that means to you. And you were talking about making these small changes to your mindset. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yes, and I think also the word mindset is one of those things that gets used a lot. I almost feel like I want to change that up and call it a feel set.
Mm,
We know a lot about what our minds is supposed to do and what we should be thinking and how we should have, plot and strategize, but we don't often talk about how we want to feel. Not
yeah.
how we should feel, but how we do feel and how we want to feel.
Yes.
And so I think that small changes are, we make a vision board. It's full of pictures that we're getting pulling from the outside. And that's a great start. It can be really encouraging. Conversely, it can be discouraging if you're not stepping into that, if you're not giving yourself permission to even pretend, right? So we have the vision board. The vision board gives us an idea of, oh, this is what I think it's going to look like. When we think something's going to look like something, okay, that kind of sets a tone. But what we want to actually do is feel what that's going to feel like,
Mm,
right? Feeling what you want to feel like allows you to show up and feel comfortable when you finally get there,
yes.
right? One of the things that happens when you come from places like we do, right? So, places for me, poverty, shame, right? How are you going
Hmm.
to get to an authentic brand if you're carrying a bunch of shame about who you are, where your
Exactly.
family, right?
Yeah.
I'm from the Boogie Bronx, you know. We had moments where it was really, really hard. I grew up with a lot of shame.
Yeah.
I don't want people to come to my house. I don't want people to see how we were living,
Hmm.
right? So still carrying that. How are you going to create a brand that's authentic when you can't share that about yourself? When you can't
Yeah.
let people know that that's where I come from. And I carried that giant shame bucket with me everywhere I went.
Right.
And so having to carry that and then create a life that pretends around it.
Yeah.
If I'm standing with that big bucket and I'm looking at what I think in my mind I want, but I'm not letting myself strip strip away the shame, start
Yeah.
getting rid of those moments of shame, that all of that unnecessary baggage. And I'm not allowing myself to, damn, let me just experience the pleasure as this person. this person with this very real experience,
Yeah.
with these very real opportunities that have come up that I was able to take advantage of, with these very real losses, with these
Mm.
very real victories, and take it all in and then show up. So when that moment in the vision board starts happening, I'm like, yeah, I'm prepared because I've been
Yes.
ready to feel this. I've
Yeah.
been ready to experience this expansion of what life is willing to give me.
Yeah.
I'm showing up for it. I've been preparing for this my whole life.
Yeah. I love that because, it's really about, it's so much easier to look at someone who's had an imperfect life. Well, no, none of us have had a perfect life, right? And so, but it's so easy to look back on your past and live there. I remember having this entire conversation with a friend recently about, you've got to stop living in the past. And I love what you were saying about just, every situation you're like dragging the shame bucket with you, dragging your insecurities, dragging but when I was little and this happened to me, and I remember saying, like, you have got to stop, like, every time we have a conversation about your future, right? You just keep pulling the stuff from the past and you're dragging it with you. And so I love that analogy of you saying that, because I think that it's so important to stop hitting the replay button, and just reliving all of these different parts of your past. Like, yes, they are part of you and they made you who you are. So, my question for you, Angel, is how do you today prepare for a storm, as opposed to just reacting for, not that you can really prepare, but like, how do you deal with the storms in your life that come now at this stage and at this age, with all of the things that you've learned and all the things that you've been able to heal through? How do you do it today?
It's going to be so simple because I just am. I'm 53 years old and I've been through enough. I've witnessed myself
Yeah.
make it through storm after storm after storm. So I am prepared.
Mm.
I don't have a checklist of things that I have to do every day.
Yeah.
I'm confident that whatever the day brings me, whatever the week brings me, I'm going to make it. Period.
Period.
It may not feel like what I want it to feel like.
Yeah.
If I may be dipping, I may be crying, I may be arguing, I may be screaming,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna make it.
Yeah. There's no other
I am.
choice. Yeah, like, there's no choice. It's never a question of, am I going to make it? I'm like, I've already made it. It hurts, but I've already survived. I've already done it. So yeah, I agree 100%. I'm like, yeah, I am the storm.
Yeah, I'm here. Like we are. Like this isn't coming for no reason. It's
Yeah.
coming for a reason.
Yeah. And also too, I think that, in those moments, one of the hardest things to do is to really realize, and it's very difficult when you lose someone, to say what I'm about to say. And so I know that it's controversial, but it's like, this is happening for me, and not to me. And when I lost my son, um, 14, he would have been 14, our son Miles. When I lost my mom 5 years ago, when I lost my stepfather a couple of months ago, I wasn't necessarily sitting at those situations and thinking, this is happening for me, not to me. But I still had so many revelations, being able to sit in that pain, you know. And I remember, when we lost our son, I was thinking, um, something good is coming. So for those of you who are watching and new to the Well Dressed Brand show, really quickly, like, we lost our first son 14 years ago, due to a uterine eruption. So I was in the hospital for 8 days, had a couple of blood transfusions. If you see my TEDx talk, I talk about the whole situation, and just talking about reimagining your story in life. But Angel, I say all that to you to say, It's difficult, when you're going through various things in your life, to say that this is happening for me, and not to me. And so I'm not saying that I was able to look at it, every situation, in that way, but I am able to look back on every situation and pull something beautiful out of something that was so painful. Um, and it's made me who I am, and I am better for it. Because in so many of those situations, like you know, you're not you're conscious about helping people, but I remember you saying this in your book. You know, I love this cover, by the way. That how humbled you are, that people were coming to you and saying, you've really helped me, you've changed my life, just by simply sharing your story. And so I say all that to say that, that's one of those things that you don't count on, um in that way, that it's good for you, but it ends up being okay, because you can still stand in it, and you're, like you were saying, like, I'm gonna survive, I have survived, period. So I love that. I get it. I get you. Can we talk a little bit about your mom?
Mm, yes.
Oh my gosh, I love your mom. I
Most of
love
my friends did.
I love the way that you talk about your parents in the book. You are this gorgeous apple that fell from such an exceptional tree, in your parents. And for your mom to be going to school and raising her kids, and your dad pitching in at that time, can you just, like, talk about her journey a little bit? Um and like, yeah, one question at a time, Toy. Can you talk about her journey a little bit?
Yes. So I think I would not be doing my mom justice if I didn't start the story at my grandmother, who was
Yes.
also an amazing, amazing woman. And so I come from an incredible line of incredible human beings.
Yes.
So my grandmother, Isabel Reyes, left Venezuela, Afro Latina from
Love it.
Venezuela, and made her way to Trinidad and worked on a what we understand to be a plantation, a farm. She did labor for 7 years
Wow.
in Trinidad. She learned how to speak the language, and she made her way to New York.
Mm.
During her time in New York, she worked in a factory. She sent her kids to her brothers to school. So her hard labor funded the education of two young men in a third world country, and they went on to be extremely successful. Ultimately, my grandmother married my grandfather, who I'll just skip right over. They had my he had to contribute in some way, and I've
Yeah.
learned a lot about him since I wrote the book. So um, I'll have to write book two. I am in the process of writing book two and talk a little bit more about Louis. But ultimately, this relationship created my mom, Carmen Reyes Aviles, and so she was an exceptional woman.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say she was ahead of her time,
Yes.
but we know that everything is on time.
Yeah.
So she was born in 1930, had kids really young because that's what you did. She was known as Carmen La Loca, Carmen the Crazy. So I just think I'll just leave that right there. What I interpreted that to me was don't start now, won't be none.
All right.
A force to be reckoned with. And, during that time, obviously, brown and black women were not encouraged to get educated. You were going to get a
Right.
job, and you were going to be lucky to have the kind of job that you got.
Yeah.
My mom was not feeling that. And so she pursued her education with everything in her. And she finished high school. She went on to get her associates. She went through the public college system in New York City. So shout out to Baruch, shout out to you know City College, and went on, got her master's, and went on to achieve her dream of going to Harvard University. She went to Harvard University in the 70s when they had just opened the university to women.
Wow.
So when people say that I'm a pioneer or that I've done things that nobody else has done, I owe a lot to the women in my life who,
Yeah.
although my life didn't mimic it exactly, certainly I know where I come from, and I know
Yes.
that I was meant to go into uncharted waters.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I was reading her story, and I was reading your the story in your book, and I was just so in awe of that. And even as you were talking about your grandmother, I was like, whoa. I don't know how you look at lineage like that, and ever discount your place in the world. You know what I mean? It's like, listen, it's this gorgeous chain of like, well, grandma did it, and then mom did it, and then you're doing it. And, I hope that your children can look back on that and just be in awe of just your family's lineage, because I am, and I'm not even in your family. I was
Yeah.
like, this is awesome.
It is awesome too, and it's awesome to look at those things and recognize, like, where in the chain, what generational curses you're breaking in that chain,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because they've been steadily doing that, breaking generational curses, and then so I know that I came to also break generational curses,
Yes.
and I hope that my grandchildren in the future will look at my life and say, "Oh, dang, she did this, she did this, she did this. She
Yeah.
broke that particular
Yeah. I
curse."
love that. I feel like there should be a portrait of the three of you hanging in a museum somewhere. With like a flag. You claim all the space. We did it. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with me. Make sure you guys. I did put the link in the show bio so that you guys can pick up Sad, Too Happy to Be Sad Girl, Surviving Sadness, Ditching Anxiety, and Learning to Thrive. We're in a time where we are running towards healing and wholeness. And so, what an exceptional way to do that. And if you are looking for a speaker for your event, or you need some coaching, make sure that you hit Angel up. I bet you are like a really no nonsense, but beautiful soul kind of coach. I feel like you
You've got
put
that right.
everybody at ease. Everybody at ease. Yeah, I love that. But thank you so much for being a part of the Well Dressed Brand TV show today. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for all of your knowledge. I could talk to you all day about all the things. But thank you for stopping by and dropping your knowledge on us. Make sure that you guys pick up the book today, and make sure that you share this. The show with someone who you think could use this information. Sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend, and we will catch up with you next week.